Samantha and her husband, David, had just moved into an old Victorian house in the countryside. It was the kind of house people avoided, large, creaky, and surrounded by dense woods. But the price was unbeatable, and they thought it would be a perfect retreat to start their family. The previous owner had left in a hurry, leaving behind some old furniture, photographs, and a sense of unease. Despite its charm, the house felt off. Samantha brushed it off as her imagination, but on their first night, she noticed something strange. The window in their bedroom would always have a faint smudge, shaped like a hand, no matter how much she cleaned it. A week later, Samantha started hearing faint whispers at night. They were indistinct, almost like a radio playing in another room. David, a heavy sleeper, dismissed her concerns. "It's an old house. Old houses make noises," he said, but one night, the whispers grew louder. Samantha sat up in bed, straining to hear. "Let me in." A voice rasped, so close it felt like it was right behind her. She whipped around, but no one was there. Trembling, she shook David awake. He groggily checked the room and reassured her it was nothing, but Samantha couldn't sleep. The next day, Samantha met an old woman named Mrs. Hill at the local store. When Samantha mentioned the house, the woman's face went pale. "You live there?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Yes, why?" Samantha replied, uneasy. Mrs. Hill hesitated, then said, "There's a story about that house. They say it's cursed. A woman named Margaret lived there in the 1800s. She was accused of witchcraft after her husband disappeared. She was lynched by the townsfolk. They say her spirit never left." Samantha laughed nervously, but the woman's expression didn't change. "Don't let her in," Mrs. Hill warned, clutching Samantha's arm. That night, Samantha couldn't shake Mrs. Hill's words. As she lay in bed, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Then she saw it, a dark shadow outside the window, motionless and staring at her. "David!" She screamed, shaking him awake. "What? What's wrong?" he asked groggily. "The window. There's someone outside." David grabbed a flashlight and ran outside. But when he looked, there was no one there. Samantha refused to sleep in the bedroom that night. The whispers returned, more insistent this time. "Let me in. Please." Samantha could feel the desperation in the voice, but she knew better than to answer. One night, as she sat in the living room alone, the power went out. The only light came from the fireplace. Then she heard it, a soft tapping on the window. She froze, staring at the glass. Slowly, a face began to appear, a pale woman with hollow eyes and a twisted smile. "Let me in," the woman whispered, her lips barely moving. Samantha screamed, backing away, but the face didn't disappear. Instead, the woman began pressing her hand against the glass, leaving behind a bloody smear. Samantha begged David to move, but he insisted there was no such thing as ghosts. Frustrated, she started digging into the house's history and found a newspaper article confirming what Mrs. Hill had said. Margaret, the original owner, was accused of killing her husband. His body was never found, and she was hanged without a trial. What shocked Samantha most was the detail about Margaret's husband. He had disappeared after being seen arguing with a man named David, a traveler in town. The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Her husband's name was David, and he bore an eerie resemblance to the sketch of Margaret's husband from the article. Samantha confronted David, who dismissed her as paranoid. But that night, everything changed. Samantha woke to find David standing at the window, staring into the darkness. "David?" she whispered. He turned, his eyes empty. "She wants me." Before Samantha could stop him, he opened the window. A gust of icy wind blew through the room, and the whispers became deafening. The dark figure climbed in, wrapping her shadowy arms around David. Samantha screamed and grabbed a crucifix from the nightstand, thrusting it toward the figure. The shadow recoiled, letting out a blood-curdling scream before vanishing into the night. David collapsed to the floor, unconscious, the next morning. David remembered nothing. Samantha didn't explain. She called a moving company and packed their things. As they drove away, Samantha glanced back at the house. In the bedroom window, she saw the faint outline of a handprint. "Goodbye," she whispered, never looking back again. Some doors are better left closed, and some shadows should never be invited in.
Please subscribe, like, comment and share this video. It means a lot to us. Thank you.